Well, so, there's some things as I've been learning about you that you and I have in common, which is that we both went to business school, but we both have experience growing cannabis in the legacy market in California. And I've heard you talk a little bit about how important that is to the way that you see the industry. And I want to talk about that a little bit and talk about your story because, yeah, I think that there's been this stale narrative about the roots versus the suits in cannabis. And I just think that it's such BS because I think that like you can be a root and you can be a suit and that's pretty effing cool if you can be both.
Yeah.
And that the people that really are the ones that win are the ones that understand the culture, understand where we've been, but
Yeah.
also can negotiate a deal or read a P&L and understand a balance sheet.
Yeah.
And that it's really the coming together that creates like the real superpower. So
Yeah.
I'd love to like talk a little bit about where you came from, how you see like what the skills are that are most beneficial for you, really wherever you want to take it in terms of your
Yeah,
story.
sure. So most people that go to Wharton end up doing banking or consulting. So they're either in New York, San Francisco, or maybe they'll go to a VC, right? So maybe Bay Area, but hardly anyone goes into entertainment. And so there weren't a lot of like people in Los Angeles that I knew I could hit up. I knew I wanted to be in entertainment because I think at the time it was like the recession. It was 2009, right? The recession. And I was like, the one thing that I think really is recession proof is entertainment. And I know it sounds a little silly, but regardless of how well or little you're doing or how poorly you're doing, you always continue watching movies, maybe at home, maybe at theater. You'll continue watching sports, you'll continue playing video games, right? And you'll continue watching TV and listening to music. So in that way, I really wanted to be in entertainment, right? I basically learned with my then boyfriend, now husband, how to grow cannabis. I was definitely not the grower. I was helping him. I was the worst trimmer in the world because I wasn't doing it for money. I should have been doing it for money, but I was slow, right? Like after a while, he was like, I can't pay you hourly, babe. Like I got to pay you by the weight because you're really slacking. Look at these guys. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, but it was an experience building like that wasn't maybe something I loved doing, but I did love like bucking and I loved like hanging the things up to dry, like all the other processes, the watering, the ability to watch things start budding, the what he taught me about being able to identify like the boys versus the girls, right? Like where to look, right? All those little things. And that I think happened prior to me getting this role in 2014 or 2015 with Snoop. And so it prepped me a lot with actually touring facilities, even if my personal experience was only at a 10, 15 light facility, right? Or grow. I was still able to
Well,
ask and
that's what everything was in the old days. It was
yeah,
like people just had their home grows and you could make a lot of money off 10 or 15 lights back in the
yeah,
day.
exactly. I mean, those are the days when you could get like 38, 4,000 a pound, you know? And
Pretty.
then over the decade, we saw the prices dip all the way down to about like 1800, 2000, right? And so without that background of how your product is grown and produced, I think that managers or deal makers or brand, whoever you are in the industry as a business person, you lack the knowledge of understanding that this is truly a commodity, right? Like a blight can wipe out your entire crop. Like thrips, like any little thing, it's a sensitive, it is a weed, right? Like so it's strong and resilient, but there's PM, there's all these different things. Like like
Very
I'm
sensitive weed. A
very
very, very sensitive weed. Yeah.
and so like all these little things, like I remember going to a grow recently and being like, because I have never seen this in a grow, and I've seen so many grows. There was like a water, like not filter, but like a sprayer on the canopy. And I'm like, why? Right. And luckily I was with AK and Shag, and I want to get to them in a moment. But my team, and he's like, I'm gonna tell you in a second why. We get out, and Shaggy's like, it's a forceful way to get rid of PM, powdery mildew. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what? And they're like, yeah, if you just rub it off, you can't see it. And I was like, well, why didn't he do that before we came? He knew we were coming. And they're like, that's how bad of a grower he is. Like, unfortunately, he couldn't manage that particular facility in the time it took for us to get there. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then you talked a little bit about like, I love the roots and suits things. We say, what do we say? Like OGs versus like Brads and Chads. I feel bad for anyone who's actually named that though, because
Oh,
that's
I know.
mean, a little
Yeah.
mean. I know a lot of wonderful Brads and Chads that are not that accurate. So essentially, I would say I'm the chattiest or brattiest of the three of us, right? Because I did get a degree in business. I have the traditional retail background, having worked at Target corporate, but I've grown weed I smoke every day. Like I am a part of the culture. I'm a minority, right? Like and at the same time, like the other two guys have all three of us has varying levels of experience growing. I am by far the lowest, right? Like Shaggy, I would say, who has been Snoop's longtime sound engineer. He has operated his own small warehouse grow. AK is kind of like on another level. He is our head of ops, and he has consulted at over 100 different grows, essentially saving them, right? Like helping turn stuff around. And then more recently, he managed over, I think, like 350,000 square feet of facility, maybe like 150,000 square feet of canopy in Florida for a really, really big brand name that I'm sure you can guess. So, we all kind of work together. He's had 25 years of grow experience. Shaggy's obviously had 15. Me, like I haven't grown in the last 10 years. So I would say maybe I only have 2 or 3 years. But like when it comes to the culture, right? Shaggy has been recording Snoop for 16 years, 15 years now. Some of the tracks on the new album, like he's credited. And so what happens when you have the night shift for 10 plus years of engineering at Snoop's studio? You end up smoking weed with him a lot when the nights are slow or the work is slow, right? And so out of anyone on this planet, he has the best understanding of what he likes, what is quality to him, but he's also understanding of like the different palettes of what fans or consumers might like, right? So he just gets product that we know will be on his level that Snoop would be proud of handing to friends, right? And then AK is kind of like he's our rain man. When we go into a facility, when we go into a grow house, it's just beautiful watching him work. He's just like, that's 50K on the floor right there a month. That's 10K right there. Like he's just calculating and he's just figuring out like, what are you using here? Why are you using this fertilizer? Because it creates cardboard terps. Like it's like stuff like that. That's really, it's really fun to kind of like go and tour with them. So I think the three of us as a team, we're really a great balance of what you called like suits and roots, right? And I think that we've built such a really symbiotic and beneficial like relationship as a team.